Hare Krishna, everyone. So welcome to another episode of Bhagavatam Bites. And there's a person who may be conspicuous by their absence, which is Bhava Bhakti. Haribol! So we've excluded her from this one, and we've invited some wonderful devotees to join us for our conversation today on the Bhagavatam. In fact, we're having a mentorship meeting, and part of that is usually we read and discuss, and we were just doing that with the Bhagavad Gita, first chapter and first verse. So now we're going to continue our reading from the Bhagavatam, and we're presently reading in the 4th canto, and we're reading the 4th chapter, which is entitled Sati Quits Her Body, and we're going to pick up where we left off in our last session with text number 30. So we have some wonderful devotees here. Maybe each devotee could introduce themselves just a little bit and say your name and where you're from, so we get the international flavor.
Yeah, I'm Justinas. I'm from Lithuania.
Okay.
Adubek from Kazakhstan.
Dave from America.
Yogapati Das from Ukraine.
Okay, that's pretty good. And then we have Shrishi Nitai from the spiritual world. Hello, Shrishi Nitai King.
Yeah.
So you might not be able to see them very well, but they are definitely there. Okay, so we'll start with the invocation all together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That's amazing, that was a parrot. Okay. We get that a lot. Whenever we start to read Bhagavatam, parrots come. Oh, okay, so starting with text 30, Justinas Prabhu, would you like to start?
Should I read Sanskrit or
nope, just the English.
Okay.
And the first paragraph we do it
without translation, right?
Just the translation and the purport.
Okay. Daksha, who is so hard-hearted that he is unworthy to be a Brahmana, will gain extensive ill fame because of his offenses to his daughter, because of not having prevented her death, and because of his great envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Daksha is described here as most hard-hearted and therefore unqualified to be a Brahmana. Brahma trunk is described by some commentators to mean Brahma Bandhu, or friend of the Brahmanas. A person who is born in a Brahmana family but has no Brahminical qualification is called a Brahma Bandhu. Brahmanas are generally very soft-hearted and forbearing because they have the power to control the senses and the mind. Daksha, however, was not forbearing, for the simple reason that his son-in-law, Lord Shiva, did not stand up to show him the formality of respect. He became so angry and hard-hearted that he tolerated even the death of his dearest daughter. Sati tried her best to mitigate the misunderstanding between the son-in-law and the father-in-law by coming to her father's house even without an invitation. And at that time Daksha should have received her, forgetting all past misunderstandings. But he was so hard-hearted that he was unworthy to be called an Aryan or Brahmana. Thus his ill fame still continues. Daksha means expert, and he was given this name because of his ability to beget many hundreds and thousands of children. Persons who are too sexually inclined and materialistic become so hard-hearted because of slight loss of prestige that they can tolerate even the death of the children.
Wow. Hare Krishna. It's pretty powerful, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, because I was thinking, okay, we're kind of in the middle of a section, so if you know the pastime, then you know, and if you don't, then it might be a little confusing, but Prabhupada kind of explain quite a bit of the pastime in the purport. So, any thoughts or reflections, anyone? Anyone who's not clear about what's happening here? Is everyone familiar with this pastime?
So how this offense happened? I remember there was this, but the details are that Lord Shiva, how he got, how the Daksha offended Lord Shiva. He came and he didn't show the respect.
It's the other way around. Daksha feels that Lord Shiva offended him because when Daksha entered the sacrificial arena, an assembly of so many great personalities, Lord Shiva didn't stand up to greet him. Everyone stood up, but Lord Shiva didn't stand up, and I think Lord Brahma didn't either. But somehow Lord Brahma, for him it was okay, but Lord Shiva is not only a great demigod, but he's also his son-in-law. So he extrapolated that actually you may be Lord Shiva, but you're just my son-in-law. So you should definitely show respect to your father-in-law by standing up. So that's kind of the crux of... But a lot more things get opened up where you realize that actually Daksha was never happy about the fact that his daughter married Lord Shiva because of the company that Lord Shiva keeps, because of the way he dresses and keeps himself. So he was very prejudiced against Lord Shiva anyway.
He's looking for an excuse to be offended by him so he could act out. Or,
Exactly.
Exactly.
But he presented himself, he changed, he was the Lord Shiva, right, during the wedding, he changed his appearance, right, he came with all these ghosts and all these, but then he did
During
something.
the wedding?
I think so. I think the wife asked Shiva, right, because of her mother fainted, right, so he was asked to show himself in a more
Presentable manner.
Yeah, presentable, right?
I'm not familiar with that at all, so I'm not sure where that's from.
No?
I'm not saying it's not a fact, I'm not familiar with that.
Interesting.
Maybe if you look it up and find out where that is. Okay, anything else from the purport? Anyone?
Well, in the verse... Oh, go ahead. In the verse it says that he, his great envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Prabhupada doesn't really address that specifically in the purport. Maybe that's from a previous part of the pastime that in previous verses. Is there a specific reason, or is that just because he's materialistic and sexually inclined and all these things that it's, you know?
Yeah, it's a good point. I wouldn't want to say I know 100%, but generally Srila Prabhupada explains that the principle of envy ultimately means that we're envious of God.
Okay.
Because we want to be God.
Yeah.
So like that. So he may be referring to that. Also previously it was explained that it talks about what an exalted personality Lord Shiva actually is, and how he's basically the same as Krishna, but just slightly different, in that, like the example in Brahma Samhita is given that there's milk, and Krishna is like milk and Lord Shiva is like yogurt or curd or dahi. So in that way, they're almost the same thing.
So, and the ultimate, if you're envious of anything, you're ultimately envious of God. So if he's envious of Shiva, he's envious of Krishna.
Yeah.
So,
I was just trying to say that Prabhupada may be referring also here, but he says the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that generally means Krishna. Yeah. So. Anything else? Yeah.
It's interesting that no one recognizes that Daksha means expert. I've heard that Daksha was the highly admired person, Prajapati, and he was well known because he knows all these rules, procedures, everything. But here it says expert because he was ability to beget many hundreds of thousands of children, not because of the ability knowing all the rules, but because of the ability to beget this thing. And that leads to because if you can beget so many children, then you are inclined to sexuality activities. Then that decreases your mind.
Do you think maybe he was an expert in like the kind of the ritualistic karmakand like activities, so he was able to beget hundreds and thousands of children that way, maybe?
Yeah, I mean that's also there because he was performing all of these big yajnas. But at the same time, there's a place where Prabhupada mentions that he was also expert in the activity of sex. So whatever that means in whatever ways, but in that way he could beget many children also.
That's a little bit contradicts with my experience that the fathers of the many children, usually when the family are large enough, they are getting more soft and more soft-hearted. Like the more you have children, the you sharing love or love you increasing, and if you don't have children, or there may be more hearted than. But here it says the vice versa. So it's like things to think over.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Anything from your side, Yogapati? No? Okay. Someone like maybe Yogapati, where you can read number 431.
While people were talking among themselves about the wonderful voluntary death of Sati, the attendants who had come with her readied themselves to kill Daksha with their weapons.
I mean, imagine the scene. Everyone's there glorifying Daksha. They came for a yajna. Leading up to this, the denizens of heaven came in their transcendental airplanes. They were all dressed up. The women are dressed to the hilt, and everyone shows up. It's like a big ball, of all the wealthiest, most aristocratic people. And Sati shows up, and everyone's like, oh no, it's Sati, oh no. And then she gets shunned by her father. She lights herself on fire in the middle of the place and gives up her body. And everyone's like, oh, wow, did you see that? Meanwhile, she was accompanied by all of these associates of Lord Shiva. And while everyone's talking, they're like, okay, let's kill Daksha. It's like, wow. I mean, I just wish someone in Hollywood would get the Bhagavatam and just like spend billions on making the movie. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, I interrupted you.
Purport. The attendants who came with Sati were meant to protect her from calamities, but since they were unable to protect their master's wife, they decided to die for her, and before dying they wanted to kill Daksha. It is the duty of attendants to give protection to their master, and in case of failure, it is their duty to die.
Any thoughts?
What's that principle? It sounds a little bit confusing. So this principle says that you need to give protection to whom?
It's the duty of, for me, I was thinking it sounds very military-esque. Means if you're like the captain or the general, and I'm an attendant, like military man, my role is to protect you. Or if you're a bodyguard and you're a famous person, then my role is to protect you. Yes?
But they're mentioning here to protect master's wife. They were unable to protect the master's wife.
Yeah. So the wife of the master is also, they were sent.
So in this case, who is the wife?
Oh, Sati.
Sati,
Yeah.
and the master is Shiva.
Yes.
Okay, that means they came.
With her to the party.
Okay, they came with her to the party.
Yeah, Lord Shiva's, because, I mean, it was a whole conversation, but Lord Shiva, oh wow, this was carrying back a dead one. So Lord Shiva was, he tried to discourage her from going. He said, it's not going to turn out the way that you hope. Your father is just not in a good space. You're not going to be happy. It's going to be a disaster if you go to the party. But she couldn't help herself. So she went. So as soon as she left, Lord Shiva said, okay, go with her. So he sent his attendants to be with her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I feel like these attendants are like, the position is probably very sacred, or like they swore their lives to him already, something like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, these are like
It's not just an
the
attendant.
followers of Lord Shiva,
Yeah.
his closest associates who, and they're, Lord Shiva sent them to protect her.
Yeah.
And now she's dead and they failed. So they're like, okay, we're going to give up our lives, and in the process, we're going to take down the man who caused this all. So, basically.
But what does mean it is their duty to die? So they came to protect the society, and after what? They need just to go and, I don't know, maybe in water or something to jump from...
In one sense, yes, and that also was discussed previously, that if someone offends a great personality, like if someone offends a great devotee, then we should either, and it gave different things. Basically, you should either, I think it was leave the place, cut out their tongue, or kill yourself. Basically, because it means if you're not able to defend that person, then you should just kill yourself. So that kind of has already been discussed. But when I read it, my understanding was that that like a bodyguard, I'm ready to take the bullet. Like if someone was to shoot at Justinus and I'm his bodyguard, then I would jump in front and take the bullet, and I'd be willing to die for him. So now that she's dead,
They felt like they failed Shiva.
They failed Shiva, and maybe they even felt like, because if like you're watching a gangster movie, and like hey, the boss, well you didn't do what I said, booshka. It's like, then that's the end of that, right? So maybe they're thinking we're gonna die one way or another here. Either we're gonna die at the wrath of Lord Shiva, or we're going to have to just put ourselves now voluntarily in harm's way and do something. It could be, I guess, seen different ways. So. Okay, let's see. Text 32. Idobak, bro, would you like to read?
They came forward forcibly, but Bhrigu Muni saw the danger and, offering oblation into the southern side of the sacrificial fire, immediately uttered mantric hymns from the Yajurveda, by which the destroyers of yagnic performances could be killed immediately. Okay. Southern side of the sacrificial fire. Here is one example of powerful hymns in the Vedas, which, when chanted, could perform wonderful acts. In the present age of Kali, it is not possible to find expert mantra chanters. Therefore, all the sacrifices recommended in the Vedas are forbidden in this age. The only sacrifice recommended in this age is the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, because in this age it is not possible to accumulate the needed funds for performing sacrifices, not speak of finding expert brahmanas who can chant the mantras perfectly.
Okay. So, we were talking about this earlier, because I was at Yogapati Puru's place this morning, and we did the Chudakaranam ceremony for his son. So we shaved off his hair. He's 2 now, right? Just over
1.5.
1.5. That's right. 1.5. So his hair was getting a little long. So you usually do it at 1, 3, or 5s like that. So I was doing the yagya and
Did you do it on the southern part of the yagya?
no.
Fire?
Well, actually, it's interesting because generally when you faced east, yeah. So you put something in the northeast side to collect all negative energies, and that's offered in at the end. But there, yeah, the southern side, because you're facing east, you're sitting in the west. So then it would be, yeah, north would be that side and south. Yeah, I mean, you generally don't do that. But it's interesting, there are probably so many rules, you know. Like Prabhupada said, if I told you all the rules, you wouldn't be able to leave the bathroom in the morning, you know. And I remember once Mahadudi Prabhu, now Maharaj, he was explaining, he was trying to teach us as brahmacharis, you know, the step-by-step method of entering the bathroom in the morning and being able to come out of the bathroom clean. Because it's like literally you're meant to do things in a certain succession, and you know, and then when you come out, you don't touch anything after you come out of the shower except for your gumsha. So then your gumsha, and you walk out straight out of the bathroom. But like if you get out of the shower and you touch anything in the bathroom, you immediately become muchi again. You know, what to speak of, some people are like, they have a shower, then they go to the bathroom, or they have a shower and then they brush their teeth, or they brush their teeth in the shower, or they brush their teeth while they're on the toilet. You know, it's like, people do all kinds of things, you know. So it's actually, everything is meant to be done in a specific, like, way, so that actually at the end you're clean. So when you leave the bathroom, you're clean. Because the bathroom is a muchi, it's a dirty place. Ironically, it's where you go to get clean, but it's generally a place it's dirty.
But if it's a toilet in it, but if it's separate, it's better.
Yeah, and that's true. Definitely.
Sounded like he said he spoke the mantras into the southern side, and like that was a part of the
He offered oblations.
yeah, but it seemed like he just did, like, I don't know, just how I understood it was that was part of the force of the mantra. Was he did it on the southern side after oblations, and he said this mantra, and then that's what so maybe it was that specific
No, it's
magic that he was
Yeah.
doing.
It's like everything, if you offer it in a certain way, you chant in a certain way,
Yeah.
everything has some potency. So evidently, if you offer oblations, which means you're offering the ghee, or you're offering the grains into the southern side, that has a specific potency.
Yeah.
So he did that, and he then uttered the mantras, and by uttering those mantras from the Yajurveda, the mantras were specifically to destroy or kill the destroyers of yogic performances. So it meant that anyone who was going to mess
disrupting.
with that, they were going to get killed. So, but the irony is, generally the brahmanas wouldn't do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the case of King Vena, or even with Indra, when he was stealing the horse of Prithu, you know, the brahmanas, they kept saying, no, you can't kill him, you can't do that. In the end, they said, okay, we're going to kill him with a mantra, but, you know, and with King Vena, they actually they killed him. They killed him with mantras, I think, and then they churned his bones. And when they churned his bones, out of that came Prithu Maharaj. So, but usually the brahmanas wouldn't be so heavy duty. But Bhrigu Muni here is already fried because of the first interaction that they had, and it's all going to get really nasty. This is
He didn't kill. He just made the environment. If you destroy something, you will be killed. But
Good
he
point.
didn't kill.
yeah. Theoretically, yeah. Okay. I didn't kill any. I just loaded the gun and put it in his hand and gave him the money to do it. I didn't kill anyone. Like that, yeah. Okay, anyway, so
What about when it says all the sacrifices recommended in the Vedas are forbidden in this age?
yes, good point. Yeah. So what does that mean?
He explains that because there is no expert brahmins and there is no enough funds to make sacrifices.
I feel like we still do sacrifices from the Vedas.
Yep. Yep. I mean, yes. I mean, Prabhupada, obviously, he did fire yajnas first. He did it for wedding. Then he did it for initiation. And then he also encouraged devotees to learn samskars. I think there are 5 things that are forbidden in Kali Yuga specifically, and I won't remember all 5.
Do you know where
of them.
that's from? It was like when he says that they're forbidden in this age. Is that from?
Yeah, it's scriptural.
Yeah.
It's scriptural. It's mentioned probably in the Bhagavatam several places, but it's also mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was from that.
But it's not. It's mentioned there. It's repeated there.
Yeah,
it's not
okay.
the original scriptural reference. The original scriptural reference is coming from the Vedas. So one of them is no one should take sannyas. No one should perform ashwamedha yajnas. I'm pretty sure it's specific where you horse sacrifice. No one should. I think it's impregnate the wife of his brother, because that used to be a thing that could happen, like with the Pandavas. Their father Vyasadeva was the brother of anyway, it was Kunti's son from a previous thing. So he could do that. So basically, all the Pandavas, because Bhishma Dev wouldn't. And then there's 2 more, and I can't remember what they are. But those 3, and then there's others. Okay, so I mean it's not far to the end, but we've also gone quite a bit over time. Usually we don't go much over 20 minutes. We're already at around 27.
Wow.
So yeah, it's easy. We could sit here for hours, isn't it? You know, Machchitama Gata Pranabodhyanta for us from just relishing. But I think if everyone's okay, we'll finish here. And also the prasadam is heating up in the oven, and I'm very concerned that it might burn up. So we're just everyone's gonna look this way, and we're all gonna say goodbye, and thank you very much everyone for tuning in. Our request is please read the Srimad Bhagavatam, and please study, read, hear, and chant together with other devotees. It's very ecstatic. And we thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Go Pramanandi.